Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Gateley, and I am a volunteer for the Endangered Species Fund. And today I am joined by Andrea, and she is the volunteer leader for Game Rangers International over in Zambia. So thank you, Andrea, for joining us today. And
Thanks for having me.
yes, you're so welcome. Today we're just going to talk a little bit about the volunteer program and kind of your role in it and how other people can get involved and volunteer as well. So if you just want to give a little background about GRI and how you came to be a part of it, that would be a great place to start.
Okay, perfect. So, Game Rangers International is a wildlife NGO, and we have three main pillars in which we work. So, we have wildlife rescue, we have resource protection, and we also have community outreach. We have a holistic approach to conservation because you cannot hope to save wildlife if you do not engage with communities and uplift communities. And we also do a lot of ranger welfare. So our volunteer program is based on incorporating or showing the volunteers all three parts of our program, so that they get a full understanding of the best way we feel it is to conserve wildlife in Zambia.
That's great.
My role is the volunteer coordinator. I also hold another role in comms, and I do fundraising and marketing as well. But my biggest role with the volunteers is as the coordinator, and I do all the bookings. So if you apply to become a volunteer, I receive your email. I then respond to that email, offer dates that are available. The dates are set. At the moment, we have 16 trips per year that are set dates. So I will offer the volunteer specific dates that suit them depending on the month that they prefer, and then we go from there. Give them all the information. I have handbooks and all kinds of information on hand all the time, so it's a really easy process.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of different jobs within just that one job that you have. But yeah. You're doing a lot of like marketing communications, and you're also like helping out the volunteers. So it sounds like you're pretty busy.
I am. I'm really busy.
But so were you always interested in wildlife conservation, or how did you kind of find your way into this role that you have?
My family, I live in Zimbabwe. I'm born and bred in Zimbabwe, which is next door to, or just south of Zambia. My family has always been an animal crazy family. We love wildlife, and Zimbabwe has amazing wildlife as well. So my family has always been involved in wildlife, tourism, a bit of everything for a very long time. And I feel like I grew up in the bush. So I really feel that's my happy place. It's where my roots are. So I think that I've kind of always been, in that space. I knew that I would always end up doing something in that line. I'm a teacher. So I have worked in the education space for many years. And to be honest, have always actually had two jobs, always had something in education and something in conservation, wildlife or tourism, of some kind. So I still actually have both of those things as well. And the two just sort of combined when I reconnected with Sport BT, who is the CEO and founder of Game Rangers International. I had met him many years ago and became friends. And a couple of years ago, our paths crossed again. And he said to me, Andrea, I've got this role for you. Would you be interested? And I said, absolutely. I'm dying to do something different. And it just worked out.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you see a lot of people applying to be volunteers and interested in becoming volunteers. Um,
We get a lot of applications, yes.
so, is there something that stands out in someone's application that would make them a good volunteer?
To be honest, we're not particularly selective. We love that we get so many different people of different ages. Obviously, we need to check certain things like that they are of the correct age, so 18 and above. We will accept children as young as 16 if they are accompanied by a responsible adult. It's just too much of a safety risk to allow anyone younger to come.
Yes.
So obviously these are the little things that I look for in the application. Make sure that they're correct age. Also that they are very aware of the fact that this is a volunteering in a wild area. Zambia is not for the faint-hearted. It can be really hot. There are mosquitoes, there are other things, and it's based in not only Lusaka National Park, but in Kafue as well, which is absolutely wild. There's everything there, lions and cheetahs, and it's incredible. And obviously wild elephants, and that's where our release facility is. But also dealing with the orphaned elephants. Even a very young elephant is big, it's heavy, it can hurt someone. So we just need to make sure that they're aware of what they're getting themselves into. And that we do a lot of community outreach as well, so that they would be willing to work with communities, and basically rough it just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're not particularly selective. We just make sure that they obviously also in good health, that they can manage to cope with the sort of the 3 weeks that they're going to be with us.
So the volunteer programs last for about 3 weeks?
They're 21 nights.
So is it mostly working with elephants and kind of in those release facilities?
Please excuse my dog in the background again. Like I said, an animal household. So the first week is spent in Lusaka National Park, where they work with the orphaned elephants. Yes, the babies are there, the youngsters, between the ages of whatever sort of age we're rescue from, could be from as young as 2 months old, those elephants, to about 4 years old. They all drink milk at that stage. So they don't work with the elephants as in hands-on, but they do make the milk with the keepers. They all have specific formulas and different recipes for each one, depending on their nutritional needs. So yes, the volunteers get to spend time doing that. They get to see the elephants interact, obviously within a safe distance. They will also spend time with communities within Lusaka, because there are a lot of women's groups in Lusaka as well that we work with. And we do biodiversity studies within Lusaka National Park. It's quite a young national park that they have restocked recently. It's got white rhino now, which is very exciting. So they get to spend a lot of time there doing a little bit of everything within that camp. Then they move to Musa Camp. Musa Camp is based on Lake Itezi, and it's strategically placed in a position where there's a lot of wildlife trafficking happening. So it's on the border of a community area. So it basically is a great place to be positioned for our resource protection and our rangers, so that they can be a presence in the area and help to to teach about the communities about human-elephant conflict and human-wildlife conflict in general, and just to mitigate that. So our volunteers will spend a week there. We don't have any of our own elephants there, but there are wild elephants that come through, and some of our released elephants will come through there as well. It's very beautiful there, completely wild as well. A lot of lion activity, beautiful lake, beautiful sunsets, and they get to spend time in the same camp as the rangers. They have their own section of accommodation, but the rangers live on site as well. And that is also because it's based in a community or on the border of, it's a really good place for us to do community outreach as well. So we work with a lot of schools, with clinics, with women's groups there, which we try to uplift. Women's groups are really important with volunteering. I know a lot of people are like, why do we need to work with women? Women play a very crucial role in wildlife trafficking because they are vulnerable. They generally are left as the breadwinner for their families. They have got little children to look after, and they are looking for ways in which to do that. And some of them are not educated. They don't have the means in which to run a successful business or have an education in which they can use to get a job. So they become sort of very vulnerable in that space. So we work with them, we give them business skills, we try to uplift them and help them create little businesses in which they can then generate a little bit of income to support their families, be it sewing clubs, running a bakery, raising chickens, anything like that, which they can do in their space, which gives them a little bit of money freedom. And then they don't have to resort to other means of survival. So that plays a big role in protecting wildlife on the whole. So we do a lot of that stuff there, and the volunteers will get involved with that. Sorry about that. My gate bell is now ringing. I'm in a wonderful position today. Hold on a sec. Okay, so then the third camp that we move to is where our release facility is. We call it the Kafui Release Facility, and any of our elephants who are from about 4 years and above slowly become weaned off their milk, and they get moved. It's quite an amazing little transition for them, translocated 12 hours drive away to the Kafui National Park, where we do a soft release and over the next 10 years become rewilded. We feel that they need the skills of a herd in order to really learn again how to be wild. And so, and to survive in the wild, they learn from each other when they're in a natural herd, how to survive flooding, how to cross rivers when they're flooding, how to survive lion attacks. That does happen. Lions do attack elephants, especially baby ones, vulnerable ones. So they learn these from the herd. And in this case, these elephants don't have a herd of their own. So they have a herd that we create for them. And so that's why the process takes a little bit longer. But then once they have those skills, they naturally want to leave on their own, which is really exciting. And they take those steps. But it does take about sort of 10 years, depending on the elephant. So our volunteers get to spend time in that camp. We also have a research department based there, and they do a lot of wild elephant studies, a lot of trauma studies. They monitor. We have post-release monitoring, so all our elephants are collared, and they monitor those elephants just to see where they are going on a regular basis. So the volunteers get involved with that. They get involved with just seeing the whole process from the beginning to the end, basically. We also do a lot of biodiversity studies. So it's really important for us to see that, sort of what is our impact? Are we making a difference? When we began sort of, 17 years ago, perhaps there was one herd of zebra, which they used to see in a particular place in the Kafue National Park where they did biodiversity studies at some point. And maybe now there are, I don't know, 7 herds and they're much bigger. And, so it's really important for us to be able to monitor these things and see, are we making a difference or aren't we? Luckily for us, we are, which is wonderful. But it is important for us to monitor these things, and be able to use that data in a wider environment or wider space, and for the good of the whole of the Kafue and the whole of Zambia. So we do ask our volunteers to help us with biodiversity studies, and that is basically, it consists of a game drive with our hostess and our driver, where they take you on drives throughout the Kafue, and we have a specific area in which we monitor whatever animals that are there. We take that data and input it. So basically, it gives you a really good idea of what they're involved in 3 different parts of our program. The final evening is spent in Livingston, which is at Victoria Falls. There's no point coming all the way to Zambia and not seeing Victoria Falls. So we do take that drive. It's a little bit of a long drive, a couple of hours, but it's really worth it. So they spend one evening in Victoria Falls. They get to see the falls. If they are lucky enough, they get to go to the Mosio-Tunya National Park, time permitting. There are also rhino there. So they're able to go and see the rhino there, which is really exciting. If they choose to sign off the project at that point, then that's great. They fly home from there. Otherwise, they drive back to Lusaka with our team, and they can fly out the following day from Lusaka. They can also choose to sign off the project and then continue their holiday in Zambia. If they want to spend a couple more days in Livingston, or if they'd spend a couple of days in South Luangwa, which is also a really beautiful part of Zambia.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a very interesting program. It sounds like the volunteers get like a very, very well-rounded look at everything you guys do and get to kind of try out everything and what they're most interested in.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that probably
they do.
Yeah.
So one thing I forgot to mention as well is when they travel from Lusaka to Musa, we also have a primate project, which is quite new. We've recently taken over the Zambia primate project. So they will travel for a day trip. When they're on their way to the Musa camp, they will travel past the primate project and get to see that as well, which is really lovely. So we also rescue vervet monkeys and baboons from the pet trade, mainly the pet trade and the bushmeat trade. But it's quite a sweet part of our program and really rewarding, actually. So we've just included that this year. So they get to spend a couple of hours there on their way. And our hope is that by next year, we will be able to, so I was saying about Musa. So from next year, what we would like to do is have the volunteers spend 2 nights in that camp so that they get to spend 1 full day experiencing the entire primate project that we're doing. The camp would be a little bit more rough and ready than the others, but I think it will be a really, really positive addition to our program. So I'm very excited for that. But in the meantime, we don't want people to miss out. So we are just doing a day trip there so that they still get to experience that, which is great.
Yeah, so you guys are kind of adding new things to the program as it goes on.
Absolutely. We're always trying to sort of be progressive, and absolutely, as GRI expands, we try to include as much as possible so our volunteers get to see the full picture of what we're trying to achieve and what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Every now and again, something will crop up. For example, a rescue might suddenly happen. There might be a need for a rescue. And in that case, volunteers might be not part of the actual rescue, but will certainly be able to observe when that youngster is rescued and brought back to that the elephant nursery. If they happen to be in the nursery at the time and staying in that camp, they'll certainly be part of that. We do try to include them in as many things that are going on the ground as possible. And the same goes for our colouring projects. We've got a big colouring project coming up very soon. And the volunteers that have just started yesterday, in fact, will be in that particular camp when this happens. So it'll all be very exciting. Lots of stuff happening on the ground. It'll be a buzz of activity. But they will be able to observe, obviously from a very safe distance, the entire colouring, which would be really amazing. They bring in vets and helicopters, and it's all very exciting. But really an important part of our research. So it just depends, to be honest, on when they come. And, not a lot of these things are planned in advance. Certainly a rescue is not planned in advance. So it's just the luck of the draw. But sometimes these lucky people get to experience that as well.
Yeah, well, it sounds like everybody is going to get to experience something pretty amazing when
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And some people might be more interested in a specific part of it. So some people are more interested in the elephants, for example, but they don't realize what a huge part community outreach plays in saving those elephants, actually, at the end of the day. But after they've experienced part of our program and they understand a bit more, then they're like, oh, wow, okay, that makes sense. And then some of them might not have thought that they would be as interested in community outreach as they end up being. So it's really exciting. And a lot of our volunteers end up contributing in a much bigger way later on down the line, depending on what their true, their love is of conservation, or what they found spoke to them the most. And that could be in any kind of form. So, for example, we've had a volunteer who has donated towards the rebuilding of an entire school, a rural school, which is really, huge for the community and huge for conservation, because you're changing the lives of young people, and we get to do our conservation education at that school to those youngsters, and that's really important, an important message.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, how people are able to stay involved after volunteering. If they want to continue to be involved, can they volunteer? Is there another capacity in which they're
Absolutely. So they definitely can. They can become ambassadors for us. They're welcome to hold sort of events or golf days or quiz nights, or, there's so many different ways they can get involved. We also have an adoption program, so they can adopt. But I would be able to give them all the resources and assets that they require in order to do something like that. So, and obviously, through John, we have the PayPal link, so people can pay easily that way as well. So they can certainly get involved afterwards if they would like to.
Yeah, I'd imagine you'd see quite a few people trying to stay involved.
Absolutely. And like I said, it depends what speaks to them. So that one particular lady, she felt very strongly after the time she spent with the communities, and saw what they needed and where the gaps were. And she put her hand up and said, I can do that. I can contribute to that and improve that. So, there's lots of little ways that people can do it. You don't have to spend $1 million. Just a little bit here and there makes a big difference, you know?
Yeah. And then in terms of the program, are people able to volunteer in the program again, or is it just you do it one time?
To be honest, we don't get a huge amount of repeat volunteers. They certainly can volunteer again if they loved it and they would like to come back. Absolutely. Chances are that they would probably redo some of the things that they have done. But because we're always evolving on the ground and there's always different programs on the ground that we're working on or our teams are working on, and the volunteer program is based on how you sort of they have to fit in with what's going on on the ground, basically. So as much as their program is semi-set, it can change now and again. So depending on how much time has lapsed between when they volunteered and when they want to do it again, you know, things might have changed a little bit by then. So yeah, I just don't want them to get bored and feel like they've repeated it and it's a bit boring.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the type of person. Some people never get bored of being in that environment. I know I don't. You know, every time I go is different. Every experience, every time I've been has been different. I see different animals whenever I go. So yeah, they can certainly volunteer more than once.
That's great. Yeah. Do you have maybe like a favorite experience from this program that kind of stands out to you? I know it might be hard.
Wow. So gosh, I have to try and think of one specifically. So one of my favorite things is getting to know the rangers and the people that work in that environment every single day of their life, you know, month after month after month, and experiencing the camp life. I think that's really special. They make the most amazing bush buns in a fire oven, coal oven in the ground. Like, it's just so amazing, and they are delicious. And it's just really social. You know how the people get together and can socialize and share a meal like that. And I just, yeah, there's something special about that I took away from my last trip there. And then actually the first time I ever, and I've grown up in the bush, I have to say, but the first time I ever saw cheetah in the wild was in the Kafui, when I was doing a trip with a group of volunteers. So that was really a highlight for me. Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, that all sounds great. So I'm kind of wondering if someone was, you know, listening to this, interested in volunteering, what would you say is kind of maybe the biggest challenge that they might have to be prepared for, and then something that's a huge benefit that
one of the challenges that we have found from volunteer feedback has been they don't feel like they get their hands dirty enough, perhaps. But it also depends on the person. So some people absolutely love it the way it is, and then other people feel like they would love to get stuck in a little bit more. And obviously, from a safety perspective, it's a little bit more tricky. We have to consider not only the safety of the human, but what is best for the elephants at the end of the day, because our ultimate goal is that they are released into the wild and humans are not their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really sort of a bit of a challenge that we find with people. With regards to not getting their hands dirty enough, we're going to try to implement a few more activities which maybe they would feel they're really being useful and are literally getting their hands dirty, and not feel like they're just observing. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Okay. What would you say maybe is like the greatest benefit that they can gain from this experience?
I think the greatest benefit is realizing that you can't hope to save wildlife. So I'm repeating myself here. You can't hope to save wildlife unless you engage in communities and you uplift communities and people, and get involved in ranger welfare, because that's the bottom line. You look after humans, then they in turn do not need to exploit wildlife and wild spaces. So that is, I think, one of the biggest takeaways that a lot of our volunteers have. They come here because they have a love for elephants. That's our sort of our primary focus, because we specifically work with a lot of elephants. But they come here thinking, I'm coming to see the elephants, I'm making a difference somehow because I'm going to spend time with the elephants. It's not that at all. They get to learn so much more. I think that they leave with a much broader sense of understanding of what conservation is on a whole, and how do they truly make a difference. Coming here, spending your money, absolutely, yes, that money goes back into conservation, but they're coming here and just seeing elephants and spending time with the elephants doesn't completely change anything. Of course, their money makes a difference. Every dollar counts. But when they go away with a deeper understanding of why we do what we do and why we do it that way, we can make a much bigger impact, much deeper one. I think that that's what they go home with. They go home with that little bit of like a light bulb moment for them. Like, wow, okay, I can do more, and I've learned more, and now that I know better, I can do better, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a great message to, I think, walk away with. And it's great that they're getting kind of that whole overall picture too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I know you said the youngest for volunteers would be 16. Is there like an average age range that you see people like kind of applying?
Wow. We have really got such a mixture. I would say our average age range, so the most popular would probably be people in their 30s. But we have everybody from sort of taking a gap year in sort of when they turn 18. And we also have people who have wanted to do this all their life and have saved up for many years and decide to come at the age of 70. So yeah, it's such a huge range, and we do try and cater to that entire range of people.
Yeah, so you're people from all walks of life then.
All walks of life, absolutely, all walks of life. And you just never know. You could inspire a really young person or an older person, who's just wanted to do it their entire life. It's a dream of theirs. So yeah, a whole lot of different people.
Yeah, I love that. So you're really looking for people that have that passion for wildlife conservation.
Absolutely. Have a passion for it or an interest in it. And then hopefully we can deepen and enhance that passion. And hopefully, when they go home, they're like, wow, I can do more. I can, we can, this is how we help. This is how we really make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's all different types of people that are coming in and kind of getting to experience this program, no matter like where they are in their own life.
Absolutely, and from all different countries. We've had from Israel, we've had from China, a lot of people from the UK, the US, from Germany, a lot more French people starting to come through, a lot of Italians coming through from Belgium, a lot from the Netherlands. So yeah, really exciting, coming up from all over the show.
Yeah, literally everywhere people are coming.
Yeah.
That's great. I guess what was here? kind of like the biggest piece of advice you could give someone that is interested in this program and interested in coming over and volunteering?
I would say come with an open mind. Come as a sort of a blank canvas and just take in every single second of it, the experience with us, embrace it. There will be things that you absolutely love and things that you don't love as much, but are just as important to the end goal. And yeah, if I could just say to them, come with an open mind, then I think that they will have truly the most incredible experience.
Yeah, I love that answer. It's like open mind, interest, and passion in what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a great answer. Um, so what would be kind of the most interesting thing that you've seen from the volunteers? Maybe something that surprised you from a volunteer, or like something that you saw in them that kind of like grew over their time in the program. If you have any thoughts on that or any answers.
It's quite tricky for me to answer, to be honest, because I am not on the ground with them every day. So I'm based in Zim, and those volunteers are with my team on the ground. So it's a little bit more tricky for me to answer that specifically.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to give you an honest enough answer because I haven't spent enough time with specific volunteers, for a long enough period.
Yeah, so you're more
Yeah.
kind of program as opposed to being like on the ground with them and seeing kind of.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. So, I mean, every now and again, I will join them on a program, but for the most part, my team is amazing. I've got two lovely teams, and they're great, and they are able to manage very well on their own. And obviously, each camp has their own team, and each department has their own team within that camp. So, it's quite a well-oiled machine. But because I'm sort of, I would say just sort of a little bit on the periphery, it would be tricky for me to answer that question.
No, that's totally fine. So, what is it that you really like about being in kind of that coordinator position and getting to like help all the other teams?
So it's really exciting because I get to know the volunteer a little bit beforehand because we chat back and forth so much, getting them ready for their trip, and they have lots of questions, and so I kind of get them all ready to the point where they land in Zambia and are collected by my team. I'll stay in touch with them throughout their trip and also ask them for lots of photos because I require plenty of photos for what I do as well. So I'm always very grateful for loads of photos. But I think it's lovely to get to know them. And then it is great, obviously, to get their feedback. At the end of it all, I send them their certificates, and I chat to them about their feedback and, what did they love? What didn't they love? What do they think we could do differently? Sometimes personalities come into it. They may not get on with a fellow volunteer, etc.
Yeah.
But there's always little things like that to kind of figure out along the way. But it's really lovely to get to know. I feel like a lot of them leave as friends at the end of it. They join as this stranger that's just sent you an email, but by the end of the entire process, I could have been chatting to them for a good 6 to 8 months by the time from the time they decided to send in an application to the time they actually finish their trip.
Yeah.
So I get to know them as people, which is really great as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and I love that they're able to kind of connect with other people and make a community with everyone else that's volunteering as much as they are getting to like help with outreach.
Absolutely. We just had a group recently, and they didn't know anything about each other at all. There were 3 of them, and they literally have become so close. And they're all planning to return in 2 years' time. So in 2026, they all want to come again together. So that was really positive.
That's amazing. They made like a lifelong connection. Yeah, and then you were saying that you also take into account a lot of feedback, which I think is great because there's a lot of places that, don't really ask for that, and they don't necessarily
Sure.
ask for that.
Absolutely. It's so important. So important to hear people's feedback. Like I say, sometimes it can just be a matter of personalities, or people maybe didn't quite know what they were getting themselves in for. So it's really important that they read the information that they are given, and do research. People need to do research. I think for the most part, the feedback is generally really good. We've been very lucky and blessed that it has been such positive feedback. Every now and again, absolutely, you'll get someone who will give you some feedback that's not great. But that's how you grow, that's how you change, that's how you learn, that's how you improve. And yeah, we're happy to hear it. We're happy to hear that. And that's what keeps us, I think it's really important just to be genuine. And yeah, you can adjust course if needed.
Exactly. Yeah, I think feedback is so important for everything. It's really like how you learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I love that this program, like you're really taking that into account and working to make it better every time there's a new group of volunteers.
Absolutely. They can also join our Facebook group. So we have a private Facebook group for GRI volunteers. And they can share their experiences, their comments, their stuff on there. But I also share a lot of information and photos and updated things that people are doing. Some people may have volunteered 6, 8, 10 years ago. So for them to see what's going on now is quite exciting as well. But they can also reach out to each other on that platform.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered a lot in this.
We have, including my dog's barking. Sorry about that again.
And yeah, I don't want to keep you too long either. So I guess just to wrap everything up, would there be anything else you'd want to say to people that are interested in this program and interested in volunteering?
Without being biased, I truly love this program and what we do. And like I said, I'm from Zimbabwe, and there are a couple of volunteer programs in Zimbabwe, but I really, really love this GRI one in Zambia. It speaks to me so much. I feel like it's so genuine. The end goal is so important, and the way that they do things is with true what's the word, integrity, which I think is so important. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it, just because I think it's a truly genuine program, and they will come away feeling like they are making a proper difference in the world, not just loving an elephant. Not that we don't allow them to love the elephants, but I know a lot of programs that do. Sorry, that's now my little nephew. We have a full house. Chatting to the dogs. So yeah, they would come away really feeling that they've made a difference. I believe that,
Yeah, I can really tell just from hearing you speak about this program how it really stands out against other ones, because you care about the wildlife and the community, but you also care about the volunteers and what their experience is going to be coming into this program. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's hard dealing with many different personalities, like we've spoken about, and people from all over the show, and people with different cultures. But at the end of the day, if there's one thing that we all are trying to do is make a little bit of a difference in this world. We all love animals. We're obviously trying to do something positive. And yes, I do believe that they'll come away with a much deeper understanding and feel really good about their choice at the end of it.
Yes, it sounds incredible. And if anybody interested in volunteering or learning more about the program, all the links will be at the end of this video. Thank you so much, Andrea. I really learned a lot, and you did an amazing job of describing the program and everything that's involved with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, absolutely. We'll chat soon.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
Super, Kayla.
Bye.